Hi guys, and welcome back to my another guide for the Allods 14.0 PVE guide, and today we will be focused on how do you play Paladin in 14.0 PVE DPS. So as you all know, Paladin is one of the most strongest classes for PVE in this patch. So I just want to focus on the build I have, and I'm trying to explain this build to you with the stats and the skills and the talents as well. So let's start with our talent tree. So as the previous video, I'm not going to talk about all the skills one by one. I'm just giving a general perspective about the skills, the most important ones to be exact. So the paladin work style, actually, you have cannons, and you use those cannons for use your skills. So actually build and spend the rotation. So we have Seal of Invulnerability, and as you can see, it says grants one cannon of purity to the paladin. So this is our one cannon, which is this one, as you can see, with a little sword on it. And the other one is Vindication, and that gives cannon of light to the paladin. So this is the left one with the little scroll thingy. So these two are our cannon builders. We use those skills for build up cannons, and later on we'll spend those. And when we come to the entangling chains, this is one of our burst damage. We stack those three. We stack 3 of these and spend, which does a huge ton of damage. And we have Pleasure Purity. I'm gonna come back to this one later because this one needs a special explanation. And we have Incineration. This is our basically the most damage dealing ability in this build, and our rotation is focused on this and holding up the Incineration all the time because it's the most damaging ability we have. And we have Rage of Light, and still we used to use it all the time because it gives a huge DPS boost to our rotation, and gives a little cheeky AoE damage as well. So the Condemnation is our another dot skill. We uptime this all the time as well. And Judgment Day is our tier skill, AoE one, pretty useful. And Holy Intervention is basically a heal skill for our allies, pretty useful in the compasses and other PvE situations. And we have Veil of Light, of course. This is our defensive skill, which gives a huge ton of shield. And we have Overcome, which is breaking our walls and gives us a defensive skill, gives us a defensive buff, which reduces our damage taken. And also, it breaks up the shields. I'm going to explain them in a minute. And this is our charge skill. So let's move on with our first grid. It's called Inquisitor grid, and basically we are trying to take the most of the talents in this grid, as you can see. So these are giving health, these are Righteous Force increases all damage, dealt and reducing damage by 10%, we take all of those. And we use the Supremacy one just for the reach those 6 grids at the bottom, because we don't use Supremacy. It's not that useful at this point. At the later periods of the game it might be useful, which I don't know. So Holy Rage. So this one is a little bit crucial, because when you use the Rage of Light, which is this skill, as you can see, the little A1, it gives a Holy Rage to us and increases our damage by 10%. So, and these ones increases our Holy Rage duration, and it gives our Holy Rage increase our damage by 15% and increase our movement speed. So this sixth one actually based on our Holy Rage ability. So when we go top talents, these are increasing our proficiency. And this, whenever we use Pledge of Purity, it gives us this buff, which is called Ex Voto effect, which increases our damage dealt by 10% and reduces incoming damage by 15% for 22 seconds. So, as you can see, this one lasts 22 seconds, and it applies whenever we use Pleasure Purity, which has a 20 seconds cooldown. Well, usually this skill gives you a cannon, but we are not using this skill for building up our cannons. We are using this skill for gaining the Exfotho buff. So you need to uptime this all the time, since it's 22 seconds and our cooldown of Pleasure Purity is 20 seconds. We can hold it up most of the times. That's why we use it in level 2. And we don't take those talents as well, because it increases our cooldown of Pleasure Purity by 30%, which makes it impossible to hold up the Exfot all the time, because it will have a much more longer cooldown and longer than the 22 seconds, and we will have gaps, which we do not want this. So, when we go top talents, we see the incineration damage increase, which is a huge one, and incineration apply wounds, which is again a huge one, and so our Crusade still is Serum of Vulnerability. This Serum of Vulnerability gives us a Blazing Blade effect. So it increases our incineration damage by 7.5% in 6 of 20 times. So we use this all the time, and then use, after we stack up the stacks of Blazing Blade effects, we use our incineration, which gives the most damage. And gaining any cannon has a 100% chance to stack Blazing Blade. Oh yeah, so that's another one to give us Blazing Blade effect. And this one gives us a Blazing Blade effect when we're charging. These are giving Executioner's Right, and this one is a huge one since it's entangling change damage, increases entangling change damage. So just basically increases our physical damage. So when we come to the second one, this is a bit more complicated. So I'm not going to alter details like I did in this one. So these ones, this, and this, basically are AoE ones. It boosts our AoE damage by Rage of Light mostly, and with this actually, this is the most crucial one. When we use Rage of Light, it also debuffs the enemies with Condemnation. So which deals a huge ton of damage. So we will have 3 dots on the target: Condemnation from the Rage of Light, Condemnation itself, and Incineration, which will be our 3 debuffs on the target. So these ones increasing the holy damage. Well, this one's deals damage when our Incineration or the Condemnation ends to the target, and extended duration of Condemnation, Retribution or Revenge. This increases our damage dealt, and this one is our defensive ability. When we are using the Overcome, it gives us a buff which reduces damage taken by 15%, which is a huge, and healing 5% of the max health. And this is boosts our incineration damage and boosts our condemnation damage, and this is direct damage when the first time you use when you use the first time incineration on the target. I do not mean the dot damage, but the incineration damage, the direct damage itself. It boosts that damage, which is not that useful, but there's nothing else to take it, so just take it. And this one is basically CC one. You go up to the target and disorient them, be useful for compasses. And for this grid, we use this one in order to reach this one, which constant CC, a slowing target, which is our basic skill, slows the target for 3 seconds. So this one of these is our these are our skills and build. So let me talk about a little bit stats. Oh, sorry, I was in PvP one. Let me change it real quick. Okay, so as you can see, you're just going for determination, nothing special. 500 proficiency and brutality, like 1-1 in classic. Nothing special on this one. But in the later layers, we can use luck. Maybe, I don't know. I have to try, but I cannot promise you yet. Which might be useful or not, I don't know. But for now, determination is the way to go. For the defensives, of course, bloodlust. I mean, if you have a healer, go with it with survivability. If you need it, it's up to you. So, for our rotation, we start with the Rage of Light, put Condemnation. You see we have 10 stacks of Burning Blade. We are building Executioner's Right with our Vindication. You see, and put it, and use it. And use this all the time. Of course, you need to set up your ability and put Incineration. I forgot to put Incineration. You need to put Incineration all the time, and you need to put Condemnation all the time. So, you need to put Ex Voto, this, and don't forget to put Incineration. You see, my Ex Voto is on the way all the time. So, I'm trying to build up the Burning Blade and use it, and 3 stacks of Entangling Chains. And always put after your Ex Voto, is the most crucial one. You need to build up 20 stacks. I mean, it's fine if you just 17 or 19 is fine. 12 stacks. See, Incineration. It's like this. See? Put Incineration all the time and Condemnation all the time, and build up into Entangling Chains and use it. Especially if you have a burst of energy, it's much more better. But do not wait for it if you don't have it. Yeah, it's like this. I mean, the main point is holding your Incineration all the time, build up 20 stacks of the Burning Blade, put it, and use your 3 stacks of Condemnation, 3 stacks of the Entangling Chains. The main thing, as I said, Incineration. And Condemnation. Yeah, so that's it. That goes like this. So if you have defensive abilities such as Veil of Light, which gives you a huge shield, and Vanguard, which gives you huge mitigation. And for Unity, you can use Unity, just give a shield to your team members in the compasses, the racial one. And you use Binding Blow for CCing, and Descent, and also another CC. And start with the Strike of Justice, of course, by the way. I mean, if you're close, use it. If you're far close, you use it. I started with the Rage of Light. I forgot to use it, but start with the Strike of Justice, then Rage of Light, then build up your Entangling Chains and use it. Don't forget your Ex Voto with the Pledge of Purity. Use your Condemnation. Use your Incineration. 3 stacks of Entangling Chains, and this goes like this. Check your cannons with your eyes all the time for your rotation. Yeah, just basically when we check our damage, we see the Condemnation. Condemnation, it gives huge damage usually, because I have 2 other dummies near to me. So that's why. So that's basically it for the rotation. I mean, nothing complicated. It's not a hard play. You just build up your Entangling Chains, use it. Build up your Burning Blade, 20 stacks with Incineration. Keep up the Rage of Light all the time. Use your Condemnation all the time, and use your Pledge of pretty all the time to have an X-Voto effect all the time. So, which will maximize your damage. And you can use in the AoE situations, you can use Judgment Day, and Rage of Light is pretty useful since it gives another AoE buffs, which are talents, which are in the second grid. So it says like this. Now for the artifacts, I mean, if you have choice, I'm using these ones because it dropped for me, but if you have an option, I would recommend you to use, of course, the Gorlasher Blade and the Skarkan. I mean, nothing special. But the things I'm using is for Tank Paladin, though. Yeah. So, this was the real quick explanation of the PVE build of the Paladin for port 14.0. This is currently a green layer, so at the coming layers it might be changed. I mean, the stats might be changing. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.